So, time for another Painter Files episode. We've been doing all these things, talking all these stories about art school and everything like that. And I've really, honestly, just been trying to figure out what stories have I not told you about being an artist and being a painter in art school and all the trials and tribulations and like all these things that you work on, trying to constantly just get an opportunity to then showcase your artwork to everybody. And my brain has been spinning a little bit because I was afraid always that I would eventually run out of things to tell you, lessons to teach, and so on and so forth. And the weird thing is I'm yet to actually do that. I keep thinking that I was going to, but then the obvious point came out that I'm still learning how to do everything, and so I can teach you as I'm learning the things that I'm learning, which is crazy. I just kind of always thought that I was going to come across in a lot of ways like I was like this artsy-fartsy, smarty person, and thankfully that hasn't been the case. For some of you who've been watching my Painter Files YouTube show that I do, obviously called the Painter Files, you'd know that now I've started to add a visual component to it that's on YouTube that shows the Painter Files stories sometimes. So, with that lead up, you can watch me on the actual thing do this very thing I'm doing right now. So I'm really excited about that, actually. Today I'm going to tell you about how I learned how to do watercolors and ink washes. I was in this class, I was probably in my early 20s, and there was this teacher who was like this super hippie teacher with Crocs on, talking about clay molding and like building stuff with our hands, and we're all like, this is a painting class, like I'm super confused about what we're supposed to do here. And she taught us about all these things. Her name is Elizabeth Spotswood. She's amazing. She's an incredible artist. To this day, she's still an incredible artist, and we still talk every once in a while. But she used to tell us, she was like, okay, that's super hardcore. That was like her phrase, it's hardcore, it's hardcore. And she was funny when she was describing how to do stuff in certain techniques, when she'd say, all right, so I want you to fill up these, I want to say they were like butter containers, like those plastic ones you get at the grocery store, like Parquet, or none of these places are sponsored by the podcast. Land O'Lakes and all that stuff. They have like the tubs of butter. Maybe it's a southern thing. I don't know. Maybe you don't have those there. But yeah, we would get those and we would use those to put our water in. And she'd go, so for one of these I need you to put like regular tap water, just plain old straight out the tap temperature water, and that's going to be your dipper brush in that before you go into the paints type of thing. Now for the next one you need to be able to wash your actual paint off and do stuff like that and dilute it and so on and so forth. So with that you're going to need to do kind of like do a little hot, not too cold, not too hot type of medium mixture. And we kind of played with those for a while, and we learned how to kind of like dip it in, wipe it on the side with the warm water, and you could get like different levels of like wash, basically different textures of color. And it just kind of started this whole revolution in my mind of like how I could make all my arts and do all my things and so on and so forth. And it was just this really kind of simple but very cool discovery of how to become the artist I am now. And I've just played with it for so long, trying to figure out the right temperature versus the wrong temperature of warm to get just the color to just kind of streak across, and then the fade to come, and so on and so forth. And it was kind of a working from the darkest and then pushing it to the lightest as you drag the brush, as you add more water, as you tamp it down with a paper towel or a cloth or any of those things. Like, I still use cloth to this day. I like to use cloth. I have like a paint rag that I use, and I wipe my brushes on it, and I do all that stuff. And obviously you learn to clean your brushes too. Cleaning your brushes is super important, just because you'll have like a really good brush and you'll just destroy it if you put it up dirty for like long periods of time. They get super stiff, and sometimes you can restore them with like paint, brush, water, soap things. Sometimes you can't. Like, there's definitely there's a little rim around a paintbrush that's like metal, and if that starts to kind of rot and fall apart, like, you're kind of done with that brush for all intents and purposes. I've definitely kind of restored quite a few that I really loved, but it's difficult. I also learned, with a bunch of cheap brushes, you can always shape them with scissors and knives and stuff to get the kind of expensive shapes that you want to get done. And yeah, it was just one of those things. I remember just practicing and doing these things and making all this different types of art, everything from figurative to abstract to so on and so forth. And it was really kind of beautiful and amazing to just learn through the experience of doing, which is typically like the biggest part of being an artist. You have to learn how to like do these things through the experience of learning from mistakes, honestly. And like, that's kind of what art is. It's learning through mistakes. Yeah.